everyone! Welcome to the November 2023 edition of Archaeology News, presented by the Inside Archaeology YouTube channel. Join me on a journey through time as we explore the latest discoveries from the world of archaeology that are helping us piece together the puzzle of humanity's rich and diverse heritage. I'm your host, Rachel, and I have taken my years of experience studying and working in archaeology and applied it to spend hours carefully researching, filming, and editing this video so that you can have well-sourced and interesting, accurate archaeology news that's not clickbait or thinly disguised conspiracy theories. Have we finally found the location of the mysterious ancient land of Punt using baboon DNA? How have ancient coins from Portugal ended up in India? Stay tuned to find out as I delve into the past, bringing you in-depth analyses and captivating stories from all over the archaeological world. Okay, let's dig in. We have 10 stories today in our top discoveries segment, which will be presented in chronological order, starting from those farthest back in time and working up closer to modern day. We start our journey going back 5,000 years to Neolithic Spain, where a study has suggested that large-scale conflicts in this region took place more than 1,000 years before what was previously thought. The study re-examined the skeletal remains of 338 individuals from a mass burial site in the Rioja Alavesa region. The radiocarbon dates for these remains place them as having lived and died between 5,400 and 5,000 years ago. Looking at the bones, researchers found that there were substantially higher injury rates, with 23% showing evidence of skeletal injuries and 10% having unhealed injuries. Additionally, 74% of the unhealed injuries and 70% of the healed injuries had occurred in adolescent or adult males, a significantly higher rate than in the female individuals. This is a difference not seen in other European Neolithic mass fatality sites. 52 flint arrowheads were also found, 36 of which had minor damage associated with hitting a target. Previous research had suggested that conflicts from this time consisted of short raids lasting a few days and involving small groups of up to 20 to 30 people. It was assumed early societies lacked the logistical capabilities to support longer, larger-scale conflicts. The earliest large conflict in Europe was previously thought to have occurred during the Bronze Age, roughly 4,000 to 2,800 years ago. However, the overall injury rate, the higher injury rate for males, the relatively high rate of healed injuries, and damage to the arrowheads has led the authors to conclude that many of the individuals at the burial site were exposed to violence and might have been casualties of war. The reasons for the conflict are unknown, but it's been speculated that it could have been caused by tension between different cultural groups in the region during the late Neolithic. Now we go to the Karajartas region of Kazakhstan, where archaeologists have announced the discovery of the Karajartas Mausoleum, which belongs to a ruler from the late Bronze Age Benghazi Dandebe period, which is also the final stage of what's known as the Andronovo era. The Benghazi Dandebe culture, which prospered from the 13th to 10th centuries BCE in what is now central Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, and Uzbekistan, is known for its unique burial practices, including kurgans and megalithic mausoleums. This mausoleum, which has also been called a pyramid in the various stories about it because of its step shape, was excavated over the course of 4 seasons, during which time the team found a wealth of artifacts within the pyramid's burial chamber. These include decorated ceramic vessels, a bronze and gold ringed arrowhead, and a piece of pottery with markings reminiscent of an early writing system. Radiocarbon dating of the artifacts revealed that use of the pyramid structure dates to between the 14th and 12th centuries BCE. Also found was a skull believed to belong to a tribal chieftain of this time. Together with the finds, this reinforces the theory that the pyramid was a royal burial site. There is also further evidence that suggests the site was significant as a cultural and religious hub where sacred ceremonies and rituals were performed. Rock art in the area indicates that the inhabitants had an understanding of solstices and celebrated astronomical events with festivities. Other excavations in the region have also uncovered a proto-city settlement belonging to a Benghazi Dandebe community. Next to the settlements, special sacrificial altars were found where rituals would have been held. Excavations in the area continue and are expected to expand our understanding of ancient Central Asian cultures. Next, we have a special guest interview with Professor Franz Schopper from the Brandenburg State Office for Monument Preservation and State Archaeological Museum. He is here to tell us about the discovery of a royal hall in Germany, which dates to between the 10th and 9th centuries BCE. It's located northeast of Berlin and in close proximity to the famous royal burial at Seddin. Let's dig into the interview. Can you tell us exactly what it is that you guys have found?
We found a homestead and a house of the late Bronze Age, as we call it, the 9th century BC. And it's really the biggest example of those houses in northern Germany. And it's just 250 meters from the so-called King's Grave of Seddin, which is famous since more than 100 years. It might be the place where he or his predecessor might have lived and had his farming, but also feasting and having conferences and so on.
Or why did your team decide to excavate in this particular area? You kind of alluded to the fact that it's near this royal burial mound, but can you tell us a bit more about that?
The King's Grave and other important mounds in the adjacent forests were well known since a century and many decades, but there was very little effort made on settlement archaeology. And so we started to focus on the area between the King's Grave and on the very shallow valley on the other side. There is a graveyard with various tumuli. There's another very important grave in there. First, we started to do a bit geophysics to look what's around the King's Grave, like Stonehenge or Newgrange. You have a lot of structures nearby, and we thought maybe we find more structures really connected to the grave mound. There's actually a long line of 160 pits of burned stones. It's a straight line, just 30 meters beside the grave mound, but it's not a settlement structure. But then we saw there are more structures, and on the other side of the valley there was a gas pipeline was built, a smaller one, and in the early 2000s, we discovered by just rescue excavations a few Bronze Age house structures, not all of them very clear. And though I got the University of Göttingen and Immo Heske involved, and they did with the students small-scale excavation, then now we started a bigger program financed by the German Research Fund, Deutsche Forschungsgemeinschaft. And then we are combining this small-scale excavation with the students and with our team from the Heritage Board. So it's a combination of these two ways to approach the site. And yeah, we were lucky. We just started and had a big hit.
Obviously, that's always what you want to happen on every site. What methods did you use to find and excavate this particular hall? Were you using geophysics, or did you just kind of open up the site and it was right there?
There was a small scale excavation by the university, financed by the state of Brandenburg in the last year and the year before. And there were a few structures, post holes, which looked quite interesting, but having only excavated, 120 square meters, they couldn't get an overall picture. So we decided to open up it broader and wider, and we found not so many post holes on the site, but a few meters apart, we found this huge house, with trenches around it, and really 31 meters long, 11 meters wide, a big fireplace in the middle. Wonderful.
When did you realize the significance of what this was?
We started excavating in spring, and then it's huge. Comparing with all other houses of later Bronze Age, it's always 2 meters wider, 3 meters, 4 meters longer, and so on. And we found a Bronze Age vessel, a small cup put on the rim on the side of this fireplace. And so we knew it is later Bronze Age. We decided then to close the excavation using geotextile, fill it in again, do proper planning and reopen it in autumn, because in summer it's a problem there. It's a sandy ground and it's so dry you don't the structures aren't really visible.
So this cup that you mentioned, is that how you've determined the dating for the site, or have you done other methods as well?
We did other methods, of course, radiocarbon connected with this cup, which could be dated 10th or 9th century BC. There was a bit of charcoal, and we did a radiocarbon date, and it was 2 sigma 970 to 830. And from the king's grave, we know it's 820 to 800. So maybe slightly younger, but it overall it fits quite good in this topic.
You mentioned at the beginning this legendary king, King Hinz, and who's connected with the grave mound. Can you tell us a little bit more about that? Because I wasn't able to find anything about him on the internet. So it must be like a local thing.
Yeah, it's a local legend which was made up because the people, of course, in the medieval period and modern times, they saw there's artificial mounds, man-made, and there are graves inside. And then they made up a few stories. Hinz, it's a short for Heinz or Heinrich or Henry, and of course loads of kings in Germany, in England, and France were called Henry. Hinz, it's not very specific. And then they made up the story that he was buried there in 3 coffins, and by excavating it, or by the discovery in the 1899, there was a stone chamber. Then there was a big ceramic vessel sealed with a ceramic lid, and then there was a bronze amphora in it sealed with a valera. And so you had 3 coffins. I think it's not really a tradition from late Bronze Age, but a made-up story. But of course, it's good to tell it to tourists. Yeah.
Yeah. How is this hall and the discovery of it going to contribute to our knowledge of the Bronze Age in this area?
We can connect it to other houses in northern Germany. So it's the southern zone of Nordic Bronze Age or so. So we can see some relations in structures, putting everything together. It's not too many of these houses are excavated. And what we hope is to define more of the territory of this farmstead. How big was it? Are there other buildings? What kind of crafts work was done there? Was there probably no storage pits? How did they store the grain and so on? All these questions come up now and are connected with that. This program will go on for another 2 years. So hopefully we'll find more and more. Want to see where are the other neighboring settlements and so on to give the whole thing a structure. We know now by these small-scale excavations over the last years, there were loads of cooking pits there with stone, the rectangular stuff, and other structures. Pick it together, and then, of course, telling a better story of the life of King Hinz and his people and his predecessors, because there are a lot of tourists and people are interested in that. You can visit the grave. We have established a tourist route on the treasures of time in that area, and you actually can climb into the grave chamber now by your own. So, and to bring it all together, that's one of my goals.
Well, you mentioned that it's going to be going on for 2 more years of excavating. Is there then possibly going to be like a publication or anything that follows on from that?
Yes, of course, we are preparing an intermediate publication of the project, of course. Then the more popular stuff, once a year we are having our conference on new archaeological discoveries in the state of Brandenburg. It will be in our film. Every year we are making a film little movie on important sites, and so you can find it on the internet. And then we hope to include it, of course, in our jubilee in 2028. Our State Museum is 75 years old, and we are celebrating it, and quite sure Seddin will be a part of it. Furniture, the stuff of the grave chamber, of the king's grave, you see in Berlin on the Museum's Island as a very, very central. And when people go out then to Brandenburg and visit the find spot, and maybe, of course, informations on the house, on the homestead, on the hall.
I actually was in Berlin and I went to Museum Island at the beginning of November.
Yeah.
So I probably saw it there. So last question is, how can people that are watching this support or follow what you're doing on this project?
You can always follow projects on our homepage, the Brandenburgische Landesamt für Denkmalpflege und Archäologisches Landesmuseum. It's very, very long. You can find on YouTube films. If you look archaeology Seddin or so, you will see the older films and clips, which give you lots of information. We also did an excavation on a fortress nearby, 6 kilometers away. We could establish that it is Bronze Age, so probably belongs to this structure of centralization and wealth and the grave mound and king, and how do you call it? It's different. Yeah.
Exciting stuff, right? Linked in the description below are some of the films and articles produced by Professor Schopper and his team if you want to learn more on this project. Our next discovery brings us to Egypt, where DNA has shed new light on the ancient baboon trade. Ancient Egyptians associated baboons with the gods Babi and Thoth. They kept the monkeys in captivity and mummified them as offerings to the gods. But as far as we know, baboons have never naturally occurred in Egypt. So this begs the question, where did they come from? There are ancient stories saying that they came from Punt, a fabled, mysterious land whose exact location has remained a mystery. In 2020, another study of baboon remains dating to the New Kingdom found that they came from a region encompassing modern-day Somalia, Eritrea, and Ethiopia. Now, a new DNA study has narrowed that location down. Researchers extracted DNA from a mummified baboon dating to between 800 and 540 BCE and compared it to the genetics of 14 baboons from the 19th and 20th centuries whose origins were known. This comparison revealed that the ancient baboon was most closely related to populations from what is today coastal Eritrea. This matches historical records from around 300 BCE that mention the Egyptians traveling to an ancient port of Adulis, which was a center in the trade for wild animals. The baboon DNA pushes back the first evidence of trade with Adulis at least a couple of centuries. The 2020 isotope study showed that ancient Egyptians were trading with Punt for baboons as early as 1550 BCE. This new study suggests that more than 1,000 years later, they were still doing the same thing, hinting that Punt and Adulis may have been the same place. Because the study is based on a single specimen, it can't really yet be taken as being conclusive, so the research team would like to sample more baboons and get more information from other time periods. This is one of the first ancient DNA studies of a non-human primate, and more work on other species could reveal more about other ancient Egyptian imports and their impact on wild animal populations. We go now to the coast of Sardinia, where an Italian diver's sighting of something metallic has led to the discovery of tens of thousands of Roman bronze coins, known as foli, among seagrass not far from the northeast shore of the Mediterranean island. The number of coins retrieved so far is still being determined, but it's estimated that there are at least 30,000 and possibly as many as 50,000. They date to the first half of the 4th century CE. They are all in a remarkably exceptional and rare state of preservation. Even the few coins that were damaged still have legible inscriptions. The location of the majority of them between the underwater seagrass and the beach suggests the presence of nearby shipwrecks. It is being called one of the most significant coin discoveries in recent times and is further evidence of the wealth and importance of archaeological remains preserved beneath the seabed. Next up, we head to Peru, where intact burial bundles have been discovered at the cemetery site of Pachacámac. The site hosts a famous Incan period temple and oracle, as well as an extensive complex of cemeteries from different periods. The cemetery was actually discovered in the 19th century, but since then has suffered systemic destruction from a colonial campaign to eradicate pagan beliefs and also from grave robbers. The recent excavation focused on an area where a high wall had collapsed, theorizing that the piles of adobe bricks would have made it difficult for thieves to rob the graves. This was proven correct when 73 intact funerary bundles were found that dated to the expansion period of the Wari Empire between 800 and 1000 CE. Particularly noteworthy are the burials of individuals of both sexes wearing masks made of carved wood and ceramics. It was also found that the bundles were initially deposited individually and then later also in groups. The state of preservation for most of them is spectacular, as 19 were able to be transferred to a laboratory in their entirety and then documented using CT scanning without ever having to open them. Their contents will be analyzed via computer by bioarchaeologists. In addition to the burials, 2 carved wood staves decorated with images of dignitaries wearing Tiwanaku-type headgear were found in a settlement layer contemporary with the cemetery. They were located in a votive deposit covered with a layer of fragmented tropical shell. Their carvings depict 2 different characters standing on a high pedestal. These discoveries support theories that during the Wari Empire period, Pachacámac was a settlement, with a ceremonial platform that is now currently hidden under the rubble and terraces of the painted temple from the later Inca period. Now we go to Scotland and the discovery of the long-lost monastery of Deir in Aberdeenshire. It is believed that the earliest written Scots Gaelic in the world was produced in the monastery in the late 11th and 12th century. These texts, which were Gaelic land grants, were placed in the margins of the Book of Deir, a pocket gospel originally written between 850 and 1000 CE. Until now, the exact site of the monastery has remained a mystery, as the building eventually fell out of use. The monks abandoned it and moved to Deir Abbey in 1219. Investigations have been looking for the monastery since 2009. The 2022 season focused on a field just 80 meters from the ruined Deir Abbey. Archaeologists and volunteers meticulously recovered medieval pottery, fragments of glass, a stylus, and nefatafel boards, a chess-like game that was popular until the Middle Ages. These artifacts all point towards the existence of a monastery complex. After the field season finished, radiocarbon dating of material associated with post holes returned dates matching the same time as the addenda in the Book of Deir. The researchers plan to publish their results in an academic journal in the coming months, and a documentary on the dig is available to watch for UK BBC viewers. Our next discovery takes us to Japan and an excavation in Maebashi City, where archaeologists have found a cache of over 100,000 ancient coins. The excavation was being conducted in advance of construction of a new factory. The coins were bundled in groups of around 100 and secured with straw cords known as sashi. They were probably buried quickly because the location was close to opulent homes belonging to influential people in medieval Japan, maybe as a precaution against an impending war. The cache was found in an area approximately 60 centimeters high and 1 meter wide, with 1,060 bunches of these sashi clusters. A thorough examination of 334 of the coins revealed 44 different currency types. There were coins originating from as far back as China's Western Han Dynasty, including a Ban Liang coin, which is China's first unified currency from 175 BCE. The most recent coin was minted in 1265 during the Southern Song Dynasty, leading experts to believe that these coins were hidden during the turbulent Kamakura period, which dates from 1185 to 1333 BCE. It should be noted that the dating results are preliminary and may change after additional research. Our penultimate discovery brings us back to Germany, where pipeline work in a town outside Munich has uncovered the burial of a man with a metal prosthetic hand. Radiocarbon dating revealed that he was between 30 and 50 years old and died sometime between 1450 and 1620 CE. The prosthetic was made from iron and non-ferrous material. It was detached from the skeleton to restore and analyze it. It was determined that the man had lost his index, middle, ring, and pinky fingers on his left hand. A thumb bone still cemented to the prosthetic's metal shows that he was able to keep his most important digit. Unlike other, more complex prosthetics unearthed from the same period, these fingers were simple and did not have mechanical components. Initial scans revealed scraps of fabric and leather stuck to the metal fingers, suggesting that they once had a leather cover and were tied to the patient's hand using straps. A gauze-like material was found inside the fingers, which could have functioned as a cushion to protect the man's skin from contact with the metal. The skeleton itself dates to a period of frequent military activity in the area, including the 30 Years' War, which likely increased the need for amputations. How he lost his hand and used the prosthetic remains a mystery, but the discovery underscores the fact that such devices were made and used during this time. Our last discovery for this month continues our coin theme and is located in India, where 832 rare copper coins from the Portuguese era in the 16th and 17th centuries have been found in Goa. They were found when a farmer clearing weeds at his cashew plantation noticed a pot buried in the soil. After digging it up, he discovered a vessel containing coins from a bygone era, after which he handed the coins to a team of state archaeologists. Goa was a Portuguese colony from 1510 to 1961. Yes, 1961, during which time it became an important trade hub for the Eastern spice trade. On some of the coins, one side has a cross and an alphabet, which could be interpreted as the initials of a king under whose rule the coins may have been circulated. These coins are expected to offer historical insights because they were found on the Ghat pathway connecting British India with Portuguese India. This rare discovery is now part of a study that will be undertaken by the state's Department of Archaeology, which could offer insights into trade relations, commerce, the economic and numismatic history of Goa during the early years of Portuguese rule. The department is now preparing to carbon date the coins to determine their exact age and historical context. That's it for our top discoveries. Which one was your favorite? Let me know in the comments. If you enjoyed this segment, don't forget to like the video. Now we're going to move on to current news and events. First up is the opening of voting for the 2023 Current Archaeology Awards, which celebrate the projects and publications featured in Current Archaeology magazine, which have made outstanding contributions to archaeology. These awards are voted for entirely by the public, so you are invited to get involved and choose the projects, publications, and people you would like to win. There are 4 awards: Archaeologist of the Year, Book of the Year, Research Project of the Year, and Rescue Project of the Year. Voting closes on the 5th of February 2024, and the winners will be announced on the 24th of February as a part of the Current Archaeology Live conference in London. You can find a link to the awards page in the description so you can review the nominations and vote for your favorites. Our second current news feature is about the drama between Britain and Greece over, you guessed it, the Parthenon marbles. The diplomatic spat erupted after an interview with the BBC on Sunday, where Greek Prime Minister Kyriakos Mitsotakis described the retention of the sculptures at the British Museum as akin to the Mona Lisa being cut in half, language which the Greek government has used before. After this, a planned meeting between the Greek and British prime ministers was cancelled at short notice. A spokesperson for the British PM Rishi Sunak said that he felt any talks were likely to be dominated by the row over the sculptures and added that there were assurances that it would not be used as a public platform as had happened before during another visit in 2021. A spokesperson for the Greek government accused Sunak of snubbing Mitsotakis to distract from political difficulties at home. In the aftermath, the British Museum chair, George Osborne, has stated on a podcast that the British Museum has been exploring a deal with Greece where the sculptures spend part of their time in Athens and part of their time in London, with Greek treasures coming to Britain in return. Although Osborne has made similar statements before, this is viewed as greatly significant that he repeated them in the wake of this drama caused by Sunak. Additionally, King Charles's choice to wear a tie with the pattern of the Greek flag for his keynote speech at the COP28 conference has sparked speculation that it was a coded message to Rishi Sunak. Buckingham Palace suggested it was just a random choice, which you would expect them to say because King Charles is unable to speak out directly on his political opinions as monarch. What do you think? Was it a hidden message? Is Rishi Sunak overreacting? Let me know in the comments. Lastly, the Australian Museum exhibition, Ramses and the Gold of the Pharaohs, has officially opened. With over 100,000 tickets pre-sold, the exhibition will run until May 19, 2024. It features more than 180 artifacts, including 3,000-year-old sarcophagi, imposing colossi, exquisite funerary finery, mummified mongooses and crocodiles, and a trove of gold and gemstone treasures which have been transported from Egypt to Sydney via Paris. Alongside antiquities, it also includes a CGI recreation of the Battle of Kadesh from 1275 BCE between Ramses and the Hittites, as well as a virtual reality tour through the Abu Simbel Temple, guided by the pharaoh's wife, Queen Nefertari, not Nefertiti, whose depiction Australian Museum Director Kim Mackay concedes may not be entirely historically accurate. The crown jewel of the exhibit is the 1.85-meter-high 19th dynasty royal coffin of Ramses the Great, uncovered in Luxor's Valley of the Kings in 1881 and never displayed publicly outside Egypt until this year. Adult entry is 54 Australian dollars during peak times on Thursday and Friday, holidays and weekends, and it's $43 for off-peak entry from Monday to Wednesday. There are children's and concessions rates, and the virtual reality experience and audio guides are also an extra charge. That's the end of current news and events. We'll close our program today talking about archaeology and entertainment and pop culture. Indiana Jones dominates our entertainment news this month as the 5th film in the franchise, Dial of Destiny, has now arrived on Blu-ray and streaming platforms. You'll be able to watch without paying extra if you have a Disney Plus membership, and if you don't, it is available to buy on YouTube, Amazon Prime, Apple TV, and Google Play. On Disney Plus, you will also be able to watch a new documentary called Timeless Heroes, Indiana Jones and Harrison Ford, which premieres on December 1st. I went and saw Dial of Destiny on premiere night and reviewed it and the archaeology featured in it on my channel. You can watch my thoughts on the film here. Something else that piqued my interest this month were rumors that Denis Villeneuve is planning to make a Cleopatra film featuring Zendaya in the starring role with Daniel Craig as Julius Caesar and Timothée Chalamet as Octavian. The screenplay is said to be written by David Scarpa, who also wrote Napoleon, and is based on the best-selling book Cleopatra: A Life by biographer Stacy Schiff. However, Villeneuve's representatives have responded denying these rumors. I have mixed feelings about this because I actually think it could have been a really cool film, but I did not enjoy watching Napoleon, and I think the script was probably a large part of that. This is a great segue into our next feature. In case you missed it, Ridley Scott's Napoleon with Joaquin Phoenix in the title role premiered in November. Now, I'm not a Napoleon expert, but I did go see it, and I was raising my eyebrows at the art over history choices that they made. Also, as someone who's not really into battle scenes, I genuinely found the film quite boring at points, and I thought that it lacked a distinct narrative to kind of weave together the story. It felt to me like the highlight clip reel of Napoleon's life. But that's my personal opinion. Art is subjective, so feel free to go watch the movie and make your own judgment. All right, everyone, time to pack up our finds and hang up our shovels. That's everything for the November edition of Archaeology News. Did you like this video? Is there anything important that I missed? Don't forget to comment, like the video, or subscribe to the channel before you leave. If you're feeling extra generous, you can go to my Ko-fi page and support me with a small donation, or go have a look at my Redbubble shop for some archaeology-inspired merchandise that you can wear on sweaters, mugs, hats, whatever. Taking a few seconds to support me in any way that you can helps the channel grow so that I can continue to provide you with quality heritage content that you can trust is well-sourced, researched, and presented by someone who is an expert in this subject. Thank you so much for watching. Stay curious, and I hope to see you on my next adventure into the world of archaeology.